This is episode number 3 for our Think About It Thursdays. This week episode is a one-on-one with Dr. Rika. Our special guest will be George White. He will introduce himself in just a moment. And so I want to just quickly share a power word of the day. And then we can keep moving. The power word of the day. I know this looks awful because I had to change it. I had to make it smaller. But power word of the day is interviews. So y'all know I like to talk about qualitative research. So most of my Think About It Thursdays is always going to bring in some element of that, because I think interviews is one of the most widely used qualitative approaches when you're talking to people and you're having these conversations. And so today, an interview is a question and answer type of round where a person seeks questions and the other person answers those questions. It could be one-on-one, two-way conversation, or it can be multiple interviews and multiple participants. And so that's kind of the traditional supremacy form of interview. I would say for us, and they mentioned it in there, that one-on-one conversation, which today is just a discussion. So my guest today, George White, and I have discussions every 3-4 times a year. We might go for a couple hours, and what we like to do for today is invite you into one of those discussions as we think about our own stories and our lives and how, we see it reflected in what society is doing or not doing. We talk about just the world and where we at right now, and spirituality and all of those topics. And so we want to make sure that you are included in the conversation. So we encourage you to use the chat or in the comment section. And then if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, Revolutionary Rika. I'm gonna need some followers, y'all. Get my followership up. You can like this video, and you can share this video with your peoples, with your folks, with your community. It's gonna be a really powerful session. George has an amazing story, and he's gonna share a little bit of that with us. And then we're gonna make critical sense of just today, of his story, and even of just what's happening in today's world. That's a lot of talking. So with that, I would just like to introduce my guest today, my special guest, George White, AKA G Money. He is a chef by trade. He is a single father, and he is an amazing brother, cousin, and nephew, and uncle, and all the roles that men can be. He's just an amazing human being. So at this time, George, I'm going to shoot the mic over to you for you to tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you're showing up today.
Thank you, Rick. That was a great build up, to the introduction. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to say that it's I'm just grateful and thankful that I can be all those things that you all those labels that you said. I can say I'm living up to those today, and in that, and with that, I'm totally grateful for that. For being able to be something that just doesn't involve that just doesn't center around me. I can get out of that today, out of me. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, the brother, cousin, all that stuff, that was cool. I really our relationship has always been and I think our relationship we've always had that, but I think we really connected when I went to in 1994 when I went to Camp Mendocino. That was a very special time for me in life, period. In And it all happened because of Vet. Well, it all happened because a God meant it to happen, you know. But that um kind of kind of introduced me to Larry, and I went and I did the interview. Here we are talking about interviews. So I went and did the interview, and I got the job, and I went up there, and they let me work despite me, you know. And I was a handful. I was a mess. I At that time I didn't know how to behave myself when it came to having jobs, because I really had at that point I never really had any jobs, you know, outside of I worked a few times for a few people, but I was never able to hold jobs because I just didn't know how to adhere to what um it didn't matter what the establishment was. I just wasn't able to adhere to anything that people were expecting from me. Even there, I got moved around quite a bit. I started off as a cook and ended up putting in the dish room with all the people that I was in the right spot when they put me in there. But anyway, it was a great experience. Anyway, yeah, a lot has changed since then, and a lot hasn't. You know, but for the most part, things have changed from the better. From there, I love my experiences in life because I'm able to reach back and um grab what I need, and I know what these days I know what don't work. Um, and that's me leaning on my own understanding, if that makes any sense. You know, I always go to that. Um, I was Yeah, that's a big deal for me. Yeah, I do have a God of my understanding, and it's pretty cool, man. That I can lean on that, not just anyway. So yes, and I am a single parent. I've done that with a lot of help, including yours, my family's, friends, um, and it's been quite the journey. And I don't think that never ends. You know, I will always be a parent. You know, and I don't want to even say unfortunately I've had to do that single handedly, um, because I haven't. You know, through all the struggles, trials, and tribulations, God has always had His hand in it, and that's pretty cool, you know. And I've and you know, ain't no book that come with that. I just have been able to um do the best do the best I could, and and that and that and that has been enough. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I like as a parent I would like to I critique myself and stuff about, you know, things that didn't go as planned, but nothing that I plan go as planned, really. You know, when I can stay out of, you know, but it God has always been in it. You know what I mean? I'll say that, and I'll shut up on that, because I get to see I get to see the man that he's becoming, and I see a lot of me in that, especially with like thinking and action and behavior. Although some of his he ain't done none of the stuff I was doing at that age, but some of it he has, like in his in his mannerisms and his thinking. Um, so yeah, it's been quite the journey, and I've you know, with struggle comes ease. You know, it's always a struggle, but within my struggles, there's always some spots where it's just not so burdensome. It's easy. It's been easy within that, and you know, and that's pretty cool when I can get to see that and not sometimes it's tough in just staying in the present, in the moment, you know, throughout my life, it's sometimes it's tough to be right there in the moment, in the present, but that's the blessing, and it's so much grace in the moment. You know what I mean? Oh man, I just I can talk about that kind of stuff forever, man. It's pretty cool, and I still have struggles, daily. It's I have a I guess you can say ego. It gets in the way, and pride and all this stuff, and all those things have all those characteristics have a so if I'm in pride and ego and all that stuff, it has a opposite, right? And the opposite is humility. Which one am I practicing in any given moment? And when I would in my learning experience in life, I when I'm in humility, man, I'm in a perfect place to be. You know. Anyway, I said enough for now.
All right, appreciate you, G Money. Appreciate you. You said a lot, and one thing that I wrote down as you were talking was leaning on my own understanding rather than leaning on God's understanding, and then that He's directing our path when we're able to do that. And um, what are the strategies that you can share with us around how to do that in the midst of how to lean on God's understanding, right? That actually we should be doing it consistently without stop, right? But we've been conditioned by this world. So just curious for you to share some strategies, practices that you use to get back to after you realize after 5 things that just went wrong. Oh, wait a minute, let me go check in because I just did make these decisions really quickly for me out of something else and didn't even consult with God. So I'm curious, like, how do you stop yourself from doing that? What are the things you have to do? And just curious from your story and your journey, how have you done that, or how are you currently doing that?
Well, the way I'm doing it now is, I get to. We were speaking about grace, right? And I get to make mistakes, right? And sometimes I get to make the same mistakes. That's how grace works, right? Um, so I get to see in my life what works. Um, I can tell you. Here's a story. So I grew up in Oakland, and I used to hang on the corner quite a bit. Quite a bit. Like it was like a job, you know. But I was used to I was at about 13. I was like some stuff started happening, just kid stuff, right? But my father would tell me not to go somewhere, right? It was right around the corner from my house, and I didn't adhere to that. That's And in doing so, I got I got what I got. You know, I got to experience a whole bunch of stuff by not adhering to what my parents were telling me. One of my parents was telling me, anyway, and in doing so, I got to spend quite a bit of time in juvenile hall, um, in prison. So that says a lot about character. That says a lot about character. Um, and so my mother wasn't with that, none of that, you know. So but she did used to go to like prisons and sing and stuff like that, right? And never she would and I used to ask her, well, why you go to prisons and sing, but you won't come see me? You know, she's like, you figure it out. You got yourself up in there. I go doing God's work and come and seeing you, and that ain't it. You know, anyway, I I just couldn't do that. So those are kind of mistakes that I get to make. So nowadays I can reach back in that. It was so much experience in that. So I it's so much like it ain't right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just it is what it is. I get to reach out back in that stuff, and I get to see what don't work, right? Um, and what's so cool, I get to change my mind whenever I feel like it. You know, that's kind of cool. Like I could change my mind about some of all that stuff. I mean, kind of puts all them old ideas that don't work. You know, uh, but what I do is I pray a lot, um, morning, midday, night, um, and then sometimes throughout the day when I need to, like, cause my old thinking it comes up. You know, I got way more experience with what don't work
Mhm.
than I do with is working, and so I had to catch myself. I have to hold my tongue. Just stuff, some stuff don't I just don't need to speak on stuff. And when I think I have to, that's that ego and pride and all that kind of stuff. So when I get to hold my tongue and stuff like that, I get to practice humility. And that it's hard work changing like some of that stuff. That is like it's really hard work. It's painful. It's painful, right? But in that I get to exercise something that that I haven't exercised enough in life, and that's like you know um leaning on something, leaning on my God. Period.
Mhm.
I don't have to explain that. Leaning on God, and I get to hear about people, and I get to hear about them, and I get to read about them in things that I read that ha- it, feelings are the same, right? Thoughts like ain't none of my thought, ain't none of I didn't come up with nothing like invent no thoughts. People been having thoughts, you know what I mean, throughout life, and I get to if I'm lucky, I get to follow their examples, you know. But and then I have to see it too. I have to see people um that have been great examples in practicing some stuff like humility, surrender, you know, um brotherly love, stuff, man, so when I get to see that in real life, in the real life time, it's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So much in all that you said, but you know what it made me think about? Um, keep on living. And I always bring that up because this is one of my favorites. But your mother, my grandmother, all the old saints, right? They would say that to you. And on the surface, you know what those words mean. But it ain't till you get to like a certain age in life after you've experienced enough that you can understand and appreciate that phrase, which says a whole lot more than the three words that we say out loud. But then what you were just sharing about, you could reach back now and see those, that's that keep on living. You live, so now you know, oh, I didn't already dealt with this in 86 or whatever, right? So I know how to respond in a situation like this. I shouldn't have, I just think keep on living is one of those is one of my favorite old people sayings, I'm telling you, because when I finally started to go through stuff that helped me to see it beyond the words, thinking I knew what it meant, but you had to go through it and experience it to know what it meant. That right there speaks volumes and it is considered wisdom Because the truth is, if you keep on living everything under the sun, you gonna see it, you gonna might experience it, you gonna witness it. It's in the word, what's happening then, it's in the atmosphere, is what's happening now, right? Like, yeah, curious of your thoughts around that.
Was that a question, Rick?
No, I wanted to know how you felt, thoughts, just what's resonating with you. Like, just thinking about what you said, and then this idea of, which I know you know, keep on living, because you, a lot of them I got from you, but a lot of little old people saying, like, you passed them
Right.
down. So I'm saying, just curious how that lands for you, and how do you start to show people, younger people, to these are the examples, even if they're not themselves.
So the thing is that sometimes, like, so I speak about a lot of stuff, right? Like things that I'm trying to do, like, and things that not I'm trying to do, because I can't try to do something. I gotta, either I'm doing it, either I'm in or I ain't, you know. And I think the best thing to think, the best way, it's so cool for me to see um a, a sermon rather than hear it.
Mm.
That I love that when I get to see it, not
Yeah.
hear it, because I really don't like being preached at, but I love being taught. I love being taught. I am so receptive to that. And in that there's no big eyes and little U's when I'm being when I can when somebody is meeting me where I'm at, wherever that is, whatever that is, wherever this place is, it don't matter with any kind of situation in life. When a person can meet me where I'm at, and it's just so much in showing me in their action, and in doing that, I get to practice that, and I can get to show somebody in my actions, opposed to um talking about it. You know what I mean? I can talk about a whole bunch of stuff, but am I really living up to that? I got to stand behind
Mm.
um the stuff I talk about these days. And it's pretty cool um that I can do that with God's help. Stand behind my words, and, like, get to go through stuff, because I'm not exempt from going through things. But yeah, there's a lot of examples. I ain't got to look very far. I can just look at my family. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I can look outside of my family, but a lot of times I don't have to go. I can look right within my own
Mhm.
aunts, uncles, grandparents, and look at some of the stuff, man, and just the times that they lived in, which are a lot different than these times now. And ain't nothing new, because all this stuff been going on for a long time, that I get to see in the world. It
Yeah.
just look a little different than it did when when they were doing it. Like, for instance, me, I have conversations with younger people, and I ask them about the same things that have always been going on in the world, and I get some of the answers are totally different um than what I would think. It gives me another way of kind of, if I'm lucky at looking at things, it gives me a different perspective. But it's the same stuff. But a lot of young people look at things a lot differently than I do. They looking through a totally different lens, you know. And sometimes I need to pick them glasses up and look at them, and look through them lenses, because just because I'm a little bit older, that don't mean I'm not teachable.
Oh,
Like, I got the answers, or something. I tell you, I learned so much stuff from this young dude that I used to carry on my chest. But I know where it come from. I think like that as well, right? He's been around. My family thinks like that. The one of the biggest thing he said, I find myself complaining about some stuff. Not very much these days, but if I find myself complaining about some stuff, he would tell me, be the change you want to see. Stuff like that. That's so powerful and simple and practical. If I want some change, be it. And that's pretty damn cool, right? Yeah, for to hear that from somebody, what the hell you talking about? Um, be the change I want to see. Don't you hear what I'm talking to you about? I'm complaining to you about. Of course he do, and he tired of hearing it. You know what I mean? So that's why I get the response that I get. Be the change you want. If you want something to change, be the change you want to see. That is so powerful, man. Especially when it's coming from you know, from a mini me. Yeah.
That's awesome. You know what? As you were talking, I thought about here I go with the I thought about what you just said around family. And when I think about just our family, our extended family, even the unofficial family, but the in the family, all of those people, right? We had and still have access to some of the most brilliant minds on the planet. But ain't no but. And the thing about it is they're expected every day to get up and go to these jobs and do this routine. And they don't necessarily always have the time to cultivate their purpose. And I'm talking about spiritually now, their purpose, right? And add to the conversation, because we've had conversations with them for 4 or 5, going on 6 decades, right? We know we can get together and just do self-care and dance around and sing and just let it loose because we've got a lot of stress. And we also know that when we need to have serious conversations, I think about that when the election with Trump, and we was making them groups on Zoom, the family, and we was trying to see what is everybody's gifts and talents, and just seeing what tools do we have in our toolbox? What do people know how to do? We was trying to capture that. And Peter, Pete go with it too. He gonna bring the truth. And I think some people was definitely wanted to be a part of it and be prepared. I think others felt a little scared because they didn't know what was coming. But what we were saying is just being prepared for anything, because when we read the word, God is telling us you're gonna be running to and fro. We ain't finna so I said that because this lady asked me, she was like, oh, have you looked for a house out there? You should consider buying a house. And I'm like, why? I'm passing through. Don't tell me to build a foundation for a house where I should be pinching a tent. And if you always waiting and listen, it was something you just said that sparked that for me too about the Holy Spirit, right? That's who I listen for now. It's this holy listening. What does he want me to do or say back to this person? How do I respond in this situation? How am I making sure that everybody I connect with, I give what they're supposed to get from me? And how do I get it back, what they're supposed to give me in return? And then it begins to shift the way it looks. Because before, I'm trying to get this funding from this person. This is a transactional connection. Now it's transformational. You supposed to share, you know how much resources and supports and stories that you have that you can pass on to somebody that's worth more than you writing them a check for $100 or whatever, it's so much more. And so when I think about the village I had growing up, which I think is an extension of my family, so I always call them my community cousins and uncles and aunties, right? My question is why, no, not why. How do we help those who don't have that? Because there's so many people committing suicide right now. I mean, people, all ages, races, genders, all the stuff, classes, right? People are in a dark time. They don't see the savior we see. They don't see how we've overcome, like born in Geneva Towers, they was throwing people off the building, 20th floor. So but if you saw me today, you wouldn't think I have or how that impacted me, which sometimes might not necessarily every day, but every now and then you get triggered by your past. And if you haven't healed from it, you could really stay there. But sometimes you get triggered to remind you what God did in a situation that could have been worse. You could have went on another path. You could have, decided to do something else with your life. Shoot. Back then, I think everybody wanted to be a dope dealer's girlfriend. So, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, like, these are decisions people make, and then sometimes they don't realize you're never too old to go back to school. Some people don't. I know school is a form of conditioning, but God allows us to use things that the enemy means for harm, and it becomes our good. So when you can go to school and learn how to break down an argument, so that when you're talking to people, you can inform them from a place that empowers them to actually do what they already have in them to do, but they got so much shit repressed, right? So I said all that just to say, I think about my family, like, right, my real family and my other family. These are the lessons I learned from them. These are the lessons that stick with me and help me as I form new engagements. And so, like, our family, I notice everybody's best friend or everybody's close friends, they're at the family reunion. They know the whole family 4 and 5 generations back, because they come in them. And a lot of families don't get together like that. And so when I think about what my family done for me, when I'm in a work setting, when I'm a part of a cohort, I bring that same spirit with me. We got to be on one accord. We got to be cohesive. We don't have to agree about everything because your research is different than mine. Your story is different than mine. But what we will do is we'll do it lovingly and caringly, and everybody will get a place to shine. Like, that's what I learned from my family.
That's yeah, it's a lot of lessons to be learned, and with people, and it's a trip, but like I got a lot of family here. Like it's some people here in Spokane. They're not related to me, you know, in a in a blood relationship, but I got some family here that and they all don't look like me. That is like pretty cool, and I just yeah, it's the lessons